This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra here on UBC TV. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono. Now this is an extension of Good Morning Uganda. But just remind you, every weekday from 6:30 we are here. The mighty team is here to ensure that we kickstart your day. So make it a date with us and you're up by that time so that we spice up your mornings with relevant information, some light jokes here and there, and I guarantee you we always set the agenda and the pace of the day, so do not miss out on that. Now, today I'm going to be discussing something very important, and this is about children. Each of us has ever been a child. Even our Lord Jesus Christ, they gave birth to him and he was a child. Now, we know children do work, but when it comes to which work they are supposed to do is what we are going to be discussing today. And that is, we want to look at child labor, a vice that is killing our nation and depriving our children of their right to be children. One would say, what's wrong if a child does some work? No one is saying they shouldn't do work, but shouldn't be work that deprives them of their right as children. And now joining me on set, I have experts in that field that have done research, that are mandated to carry out inspection. And I'll begin with a gentleman that is at my extreme end, and that is Ismail Kabanda, who happens to be the labor inspection officer that is in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, moderator. By the name's Kalanda Isma Buyego. I'm a Principal Labor Officer in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And at the same time, I'm the focal point person on child labor in Uganda. And
just next to me is Madame Barbara Odong, who happens to be, that is the Program Officer, NASET Research and Development Organization. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having, at least I have, the agenda is balanced.
Yeah, it is.
Now I have Hugh. You know, when it comes to these things of labor, some the male frocos, those are things we grew up doing. Now I'll begin with Barbara. At least I know Kalanda, Minister of Labor, Gender and Social Development. Now Barbara, you come in from NASET Research Development Organization. First, help my viewer understand, what do you do? Is it a government agency? What is the connection between the ministry and this organization?
Okay, thank you. First, really, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to interact and share with the viewers and Ugandans, really, when it gets to issues of children and their protection and well-being. I must say that it's an honor, really, for us to be here. You have introduced me. Yeah, I work with the NASET Research and Development Organization as the Programs Manager for Social Protection. We are, NASET Research and Development Organization is a non-government organization. We work in the East African region, and we have been in existence since 2008. And really our interventions are to work with communities that are really underserved. Children, young people, very vulnerable households. And in Uganda, our interventions are largely within the coffee, tea sector, the mining sector, and our operations are in the Karamoja area, largely in the agricultural sector and in the mining sector. Our operations also scale up to the western part of this country, in still in the coffee and tea sector, and then we also in the Greater Mbale still addressing issues of child labor in the coffee and tea sector. So we are an NGO that really looks at utilizing, what the communities have in terms of their resources to bring about social change and social development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now that we know what a nascent research and development organization does, I'll go back to Ismail. When you talk about child labor, this has been defined or understood by different people differently. Actually, if you go in the streets or a village, talk about child labor, one will even tell you, don't spoil our kids. Go away from here because you're subjecting them not to be working. Now, from the government and the ministry's perspective, what is child labor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chirabo. First of all, internationally, child labor has been defined by ILO, the International Labour Organization, and child labor mainly, this is work that is detrimental to the child's health, child's growth and development. It is mainly work that is hazardous, exploitative, and is not safe and healthy for the children. And mainly child labor, you know that children should work actually. Children are supposed to work, but the work they should be engaged in, first of all, should be healthy, shouldn't be hazardous. It should not impede their development and growth. And like aware, children's work is supposed to be at school. Ideally, all children are supposed to be at school, and so when we find children engaged in work that is not healthy and interrupts with their education, this is when we can term it as child labor. And child labor is mainly children at least below the age of 18, and it is well classified. We have at least when a child is below 12 years, he or she is not supposed to be engaged in any form of work or in exploitative work. These children should only be engaged in light work that only helps them to learn for purposes of learning and development. They are not supposed to engage in employment or in work that involves pay. They should mainly be doing work that is light, maybe in a home, things like washing plates, cleaning the house, such issues. So, however, as they grow up, they can be involved in some kind of work, at least between 12 and 14. They can be engaged in some, again, light work that is supervised by an adult. And the issue is that work should be healthy and should not jeopardize their education, their growth and development. And at least when they go between at least 14 and to 17, they can still engage in harder work, but which is again not hazardous. Hazardous is mainly work that toxic chemicals, work that is not good in the environment, is not good for their development and their health, and generally. So that is how we can define child labor.
Well defined. Let's also look at, for example, when you talk about work that is not detrimental, work that is not infringing on their rights. We've seen children in the evening moving with buckets of eggs on the streets of Kampala. Remember one time we even had a very moving story of a young man who would throw the eggs, then cry, and passerbyers give him money, then he moves to another area, then again the same eggs he throws them. You remember that?
Yes.
I think you feel the ministry was very interested in that. It was a trick that this young man had mastered the art of kind of fleecing the public.
Yeah.
But the big question would be, to what extent do we have young kids that you find moving with bananas around? Those that the mother gives maize to move around with. We have those that are working in markets with their parents. So the mother works in the market, it's holiday time, says, no, come go with me. Take this banana there, do that, do that. So how do we term that?
Yeah, ideally, like I explained, these children below 12 years must not be engaged in economic work, economic activities for earning. The idea, or the idea is that it is the parents who are supposed to look after the children. When someone gets a child, the idea is that the person is really prepared to look after the child, and it is the parents who are supposed to take care of the child, and it is not other way around. So the children moving on the streets, selling eggs, I think it is an issue of enforcement, and when you really interrogate it, you realize that KCCA has been withdrawing, especially these children on the street. Though it has been mainly on the street children, but is also supposed to withdraw and enforce even the children doing child labor on the streets. It is only those children that are above, like I explained, 12 years, but again, that is not how the way children should be done. So the idea is children must be at school. If it is holidays, they can support their parents. They can support their parents in doing light work. Like I said, help in washing clothes, washing plates, supporting their children. Because the idea is when you go with this child, when it is not school time, he learns how to do some of these activities, especially the household chores. It is purposes of learning, but for purposes of economically gaining or exploiting these children, it is wrong. And in most cases, you realize that some of these employers prefer using children. It is because a child you can give anything. Even if it's a task that is supposed to cost 10,000 shillings, a child will do it at 2,000 shillings. And even in a kind of employment that is hazardous, things that are hazardous, that are bad for the environment, the child will not know that this one is dangerous. He will just go and touch into those toxic chemicals. They don't know the effects, they are not aware of anything. So the issue is that they should not be exposed to such kind of environment.
Very interesting. Then this brings me also to ask, yes, we have a problem that seemingly is increasing, but we must also understand why, if this is a challenge, why are we still seeing Barbara, child labor thriving? I must say non-government organizations have done a lot of preaching the gospel in that direction. The ministry also has done a lot as far as at least creating awareness and sensitization. We've had our legislators work on the issue of passing laws, but why do we see this still existing? When you go to some of our mines, much as the work there is very hazardous, you find that children are there. Those time I was in Mubende, the gold thing, but you would find some there shaking around. When you go to these quarries, you find as if it is a must that kids must be there. Now they have these, they are carrying stones, and the poor kids can even slide and hurt themselves. When you go to the fishing community, I fear water, you know. But you find these young kids are there doing something. That's why I found sand fishing. I ever come across that? They go on a boat, and then someone has to dive with a can, then go deep, then come up with sand, pour in a boat. And these kids were perfecting this thing of the way of doing that, and I was like, God, so why do we still have this?
Well, first, it's really very, very grave and unfortunate that despite the efforts, we still see child labor on a rise. Just to also add to what the competent authority, Mr. Kalanda, has just mentioned, you know, child labor has risen from 2.8 million, you know, to 4 million. And now recently, you know, UBOS launched a report last year, and we are now at 6.2 million child labor. You know, this is very grave, and amidst all the efforts that we are talking about, you have highlighted so much. The NGOs, the you know, private sector, government, and several other stakeholders are really trying to do their best. But despite that, you know, the problem still is growing. Of course, you know, we have seen that you know, why the issue has even continued to grow like this. COVID-19 really came into play, and it highly, you know, pushed us back. You know, we have seen families and households continuously, you know, manifest or exhibit, you know, these effects of COVID. Their livelihoods were largely affected, and with this kind of trend, we have seen that when a household's livelihood is affected, there are so many things that come into play, so many needs that the household is not able to meet, and so you realize that because of that, you know, the family rather prioritizes to use a child to contribute to the household's, you know, financial status, yeah, and that's where we see many of our children not able to access learning, not able to access education, because I mean, parents find it as the first option because of you know, such an economic kind of constraint. And of course, my friend from the ministry, you know, will also tell you that poverty, you know, adding to COVID, there is already a problem of poverty. You know that the Uganda household, the Uganda National Household Survey released statistics, and 20.3% of households live in poverty. You know, what does this mean for us? You know, it means that, you know, children are pushed into child labor because of the economic circumstances that they are into, yeah. And of course, there are things that, as an NGO, we cannot be able to address independently, yeah. And that's why, of course, again, addressing child labor is a multi-sectoral approach. In the Karamoja region where we work, we are implementing a project that is titled "Work No Child's Business," and it's in the gold mine, and really the issues that push children to child labor are really compound. You know, we have seen nutrition, hunger, spike up the issue. Yeah, we have also, you know, poverty is really, you know, I must say that Karamoja is already special in its own. It even has a special ministry as Karamoja. But, you know, despite the efforts, the problem is still there. And I think we need to be, or to ensure that whereas everyone needs to come together, you know, to really address, you know, so this is a problem that not only needs the CSOs doing child labor, but requires a multi-sector approach. Even if you're a CSO and you're not doing or implementing programs around child labor, it's time now that we really come together and see how we accelerate, you know, efforts to ensure that the issue is really addressed. And again, you know, you asked a very critical issue. Why is the problem still, you know? I must say trafficking is largely leading to the problem of child labor. I mean, you just talked about children on the street in Kampala. Again, I will refer to the Karamoja region, where our interventions are really, where we work at household level to ensure that, you know, households are socially and economically empowered to ensure that they can be able to support their children, at least to access education, access health, access nutrition, but also be those champions that say no to child labor. You know, Karamoja borders Kenya, for example, and so each time insecurities are happening in Karamoja, we end up seeing several of the families affected and running to the neighboring area. But also, we see a lot of labor moving between Karamoja and Kenya. Okay. We have also seen a lot of labor from Karamoja to Kampala. So the issue of trafficking is
also
big, it's something that is escalating there.
Now, this brings me to go back to ISMA. We've talked about child labor, the causes, but what's its impact to these children? What are the challenges, the disadvantages that child labor poses to the victims? Of course, not forgetting our viewers watching us, also housemates. This is one area. I know now the elite, the corporate world, many of you are having housemates at home. And if ISMA was very empowered and began knocking fences, well, he would take you on for child labor. But please don't run away from your seat. We are just talking about this for you to think about it. That maid that you leave your children with, and sometimes I hear ladies, and here now Barbara, sometimes I sneak into this talk and someone says, well, my maid, you know, my maid, who can get me a car? I need 13, 14, 15. Those ones, one, they will not escape with men. Those ones will listen. Those ones you can back at them. Those ones,
it's not,
you know, it's one of the biggest areas where we are seeing child labor. You're leaving home, one says, I'm not one who can even play with them. At least the edge somehow. Sometimes you find the maid even older than the daughters of the house. But she's the maid.
Yeah.
So that is also another area, away from mines and all that. Many of you are carrying out that. But let's get to know the disadvantages or the problem child labor poses on its victims.
Yes, child labor, first of all, like we said, the children are supposed to be at school. And when the child is engaged in child labor, their schooling period is interrupted, and it affects, first of all, the skilling. They don't get the necessary skills. They grow up as children who are illiterate, and at the end of the day, they will not get good jobs. They'll end up in the bad jobs. And the country's development is impeded, and ideally these children should stay in school, get the necessary skills, get employment, and the country develops through skilling these children. And another thing is that these children are exposed to dangerous substances. For example, when you go to plantations, they are exposed to toxic chemicals, and this impedes their development. And I don't know, we have even heard that these toxic chemicals can even cause impotence. Yeah, they cause impotence. So the child at the end will grow up, get to 18, get married, and they fail to get to produce children. And then the child labor is also a big challenge because it increases the crime. It increases crime. These children who grow up on the streets, at the end of the day, they have no income. They are not skilled. They cannot set up homes. They end up engaging in criminal activities. Even when you go here in Kampala, these children who have grown up on the streets and have not gone to school, they end up becoming gangsters on the street. And they make the country's image bad. You know, when the crime rates are so high in like a city in Kampala, it will impede the tourists and give a wrong image of the country. So generally, child labor is detrimental to the economy. If, for example, like at the moment when we give statistics, I think before COVID we had 2.8 million children engaged in child labor. But within this period of 3 years, the number has gone to 6.2. And when you put it into perspective, and even the last year, according to the UBOS National Labour Force Survey, within the period of 1 year, in 2020, we had 3.8 million. And now it is from 3.8 now it is already 6.2, so
more than almost double.
So the rate at which it is increasing is very high, and you can just imagine if it continues increasing at a very high rate, and this is where we expect to get more youth joining criminal gangs. This is where we expect to get youth without skills. These schools, children who have not gone to school, and at the end of the day, you can see the kind of population we shall be having.
Then we boast of a young population, and of course we talk about a big population, but not with quality, because they are not employable, they don't have the skills, they are engaging in criminality, so then that would be a very dangerous generation.
Yes.
But hope and pray we don't get to that. Now allow me to go for a short break. When we return, we will still be discussing more regarding child labor. Keep it with us.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kaso's my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Professional guidance.
There is no special antiretroviral therapy that is given specifically for discordant couples.
And of course, politics.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for Anita Monga and Talebo?
That is laughable. Why would we pay when we have nominated them as SEC?
Every party has been represented in Uganda's parliament for 10 years. We only by one MP, you yourself and my daughter, Susan.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's One-on-One with Michael Jordan Lukomwa on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
Are you a player in the tourism sector with a struggling business following the COVID pandemic? UDB, in partnership with European Union, is providing financial assistance to businesses operating in the tourism sector. You can access subsidized loan with grants, loan with a tenor of up to 5 years, free business advisory services, and free environmental impact assessment. Visit www.udbl.co.ug/call for applications to apply. Deadline for submission is 31st October 2022 at 5 p.m. For more information, please call 0414 355 509.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for being with us here on UBC TV. We are still discussing child labor, something that is on an increase in our country, yet detrimental and depriving of our children the right to be children, the right to enjoy their childhood, and of course very dangerous. Many have lost lives, some have sustained permanent body injuries, others have been psychologically tortured, among others. Now joining me on set, in case you've just joined us, I have that is an officer from Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development in terms of labour inspection, and also I have an officer, would I say, the programs officer, that is NASET Research and Development Organization, and these are the people that I'm having with whom we are discussing this very important topic. One person once said, don't subject the child to child labor. Just assume if you were subjected to the same, would you be who you are today? Much as you still have those that cherish and have that ancient saying that we used to work, we did this. Yes, you could have gone through that pain, but it was a wrong thing. So should we continue or should we go to the right path? Now, this brings me to Barbara. See, one of the things I always find in my country, there are so many NGOs. By the time I'm in northern Uganda, and every car that was passing by, an NGO, civil society, I'm like, hey God, this would be next to heaven if all these NGOs were at work. Now that's where I want to find out how do you support government programs? How do you come in the fight against child labor? And in case you have successful stories, also we can know that maybe this is the transformation we've gotten here, or else, well, we are here to listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. We are very cognizant that that there are several actors in protection, in addressing issues of exploitation, addressing issues of social protection. Yeah, but also, I mean, like you highlighted earlier, the issue of child labor is, doesn't seem to be reducing. What's the problem? What do we need to do better? Should be the question also. We need to rethink what can we do better. Very, very critical. Ministry of Education, released statistics, I think in 2017, of the children that enroll in primary education, 30% do not complete primary 7. Do you know? And the rate of retention, even in secondary school, has stagnated at 25% for years. Do you know what does this mean? Children are not transitioning to the next level, but also those that are transitioning are still dropping out. So our interventions really are so that we can be able to increase education, provide opportunities really for households to start with, to be able to know that they have got a responsibility to send their child to school, because like competent authority mentioned, without education we see this country going down the drain. Yeah. Several interventions around social inclusions, social and economic inclusion is also one of the very high impact interventions that we have really, I must say, realized a lot of sustainable efforts. We recently concluded a pilot project with the Food and Agriculture Organization, again in Amudat and Moroto districts. But the power belongs to the communities. belongs to the household. Should we or should the government, for instance, increase social protection opportunities, access to health, access to education, access to medical, we will see that a number of our households are able to send their children to school. We have limitations. Good, we have a competent authority here. Probably he will tell us a little bit more of the probably initiatives or or what government is doing in that angle. I just want to also just highlight that the issue of exploitation among the 14 to 17 years of age, he talked about it, those are usually seen, neither are they children, yes, neither do they fall within youth, and several projects, several programs, even government interventions will target youth, and you know what the youth age is, and so these are left at that. But of course, our interventions gain high impact. We've realized that working with this age group, very, very, very vibrant young people, and who really love what they do. And I mean, earlier on I said, eradication of child labor is a partnership. We partner with the households, we partner with the communities because they have a contribution. We partner with local leaders, we partner with local government. They have a mandate, and so if we all partner and work closely with each other, we will be able to realize a bigger change. One of the very innovative ways or approaches that we use is the area-based approach. Of course, I know the area-based approach is really looking at every stakeholder within a community, regardless, whether you earn money, whether you don't earn, whether you're a cultural leader, whether you are not, everyone has a resource that they can contribute to the fight. And of course, like I said, our work is research-based and evidence-based. So we work as we use our work as research to see how local perspectives can contribute to the solutions. Yeah, in the Greater Mbale and the Western region where we work, a project funded by the International Labour Organizations titled the Excel Project, where we basically strengthen or have interventions around livelihood, skilling as a pathway to eliminating child labor. Now, I mentioned poverty is a very critical challenge. If a household cannot provide, if they cannot afford the basic, it's going to be difficult for us to see them send children to school. It's going to be difficult for us to see young people get into decent employment. But you see, our interventions are dealing with that root cause, for example, poverty, and how can we ensure that even a very poor household can be able to access an economic opportunity. We have what we call village savings and loan associations. These are, in our approach, households, whether you earn very little or you're very poor, it brings them together, and in there they're able to, to really contribute to the issue of finances and see how, of course, they can be able to realize economic enhancement. But you see, we cannot do it alone,
Now, definitely that you can't do it alone. This is why I want to bring in Ismail, what government has done. What is government doing? Because the NGO we've had, but she says, yes, we can do as much as maybe what our resource envelope does or what our donors maybe look into that. Now, what is government doing?
Okay, as government, one of our key tasks is the regulatory framework. Yeah, and we are working on many of these laws, the laws surrounding labor and employment. Like you are aware, the Employment Act, its amendment is in its advanced stages. And we also have a number of laws we are working on. And we are being supported by our partners, especially the ILO. And we are working on the amendment or the revision of the employment of children regulations of 2012. We want to improve it. We are also drafting the guidelines to guide the process of inspecting or how an elimination of child labor. We are working on the employment regulations. We are also doing also a number of activities, especially we conduct inspections to some of these workplaces. Whenever we do the inspections, one of the issues we look at is child labor. We go to the plantations with the support of the ILO under the Axel project. We've been visiting the coffee and the tea plantations and the factories where we want to ensure that there is no child labor. Where possible, we do the withdrawal. We engage in dialogue. We dialogue with some of these employers. We provide technical advice to them such that they don't employ these young children, especially in periods of school, in activities that are hazardous. And we are also working on the laws and the systems to enable us adequately enforce. As of now, our enforcement mechanisms are still a bit weak, and we are working with the Office of the DPP to ensure that we can adequately prosecute those offenders whom we find engaging children in child labor. And the other activities, we reconstituted the National Steering Committee on Elimination of Child Labor. And this committee is one of the arms that monitors and routinely monitors and gives foresight on the activities we conduct for child labor. Good enough, we sit quarterly. We normally get support from partners and we sit. So we are also trying, with the support, we have been doing train of trainers, and where we try to strengthen the capacity of the stakeholders, our labor officers, to conduct this child labor. We are doing advocacy. Every year we commemorate the World Day Against Child Labor on 12th of June. We conduct radio programs. Like now we on TV, so the purpose is to enlighten the population and other stakeholders on what we are doing and how we can work together to enforce child labor. Then in general, as government, we realize that one of the key factors that exacerbates child labor is poverty. Poverty, and government has also put up some programs, at least to ensure that household poverty is reduced. As of now, our ministry is also involved in the parish development model. This model, one of the key purpose of the fund is to ensure that we reduce household poverty. Okay. Yeah, when the home is well nourished financially, we expect the parents will be able to take the children at school, facilitate them, feed them, and they may not be tempted to send them on the streets to go and sell maize.
Very interesting interventions there. We wait for the legal reforms, but also we have so many laws, but if not enforced, so we talk about enforcement. We hope that you will have enough manpower to carry out this noble cause. We're looking at time. I think I'm left with 1 or 2 minutes to say bye-bye to you lovely people. But I'll begin with Barbara. Let me have your parting shot this morning. Your last word to our viewers.
Yeah, I think that, like I did mention, child labor is a multi-sectoral problem, and we must really end child labor. Government, we need to see data from where we are and where we are heading is a very critical issue. But also, we need funding for child labor. It's a growing issue. It's a growing problem, and of course, Ministry of Finance. If Ministry of Finance can only continue to release, the funding for government to be able to address this issue, we will be able to reverse or accelerate, the efforts. I must also say that that the power is within the communities, but we or government has the means really to enhance or to support households get to this. Very critical, we cannot do this without partners. We cannot do this, of course, again, we cannot eradicate child labor without collaboratively working with civil society, because I mean, Mr. Kalanda will also clearly highlight the need for civil society to come in and really support the efforts of the government. But I must say that social protection is an issue that needs to be really scaled up and ensure that even those children, for instance, those that are orphaned, can have opportunities to access at least health, medical. SDG 8.7 calls for total eradication of child labor, and we have set a target by 2025. We are in 2023. What can we do now to accelerate, this very, very, very fast? And so, if we have a target by 2025, Uganda is a pathfinder country. What lessons do we pick from, let's say, what many other CSOs, including Nascent, what we are doing that works or that is scalable, and ensure that we can be able to reduce child labor? But I think that we are headed in the right direction. We just need to scale up the interventions. We need funding for these interventions to ensure that it reaches even the very, very last, child and young people and communities. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Let me have your final word this morning.
Okay, thank you, our viewers. The government is really committed in eradicating child labor, and as of now, we are working on a program on elimination of child labor and school dropout, where we hope to support where government hopes that we can reduce child labor, reduce school dropouts, and at least we strengthen and increase the retention of children at school. And as government, we're also working, like I said, on a number of measures of which we hope we can achieve. And lastly, I would like also to thank our partners who have been at least hands-on, who have been handy in supporting us, especially the ILO, where we have the Netherlands Embassy, the US Department of Labor, and we have the consortium, the Work No Child Business. We have been working with them. As government, we can't be everywhere, so our partners have been also doing some good work. So, and I think with the efforts that we are working on, we hope to come up with the holistic measures that we can be supported, and we have hope that we can reduce child labor.
Well, we are all hopeful that we can reduce child labor. Yeah. Now, this is a journey that we must work together. Communities must condemn child labor. Families at family level, we must condemn child labor. Children are not supposed to be working in forms of work that are very hazardous, dangerous, and deterrent, and don't enable them enjoy their childhood. I want to thank you so much, Barbara Odong, that is a program officer and Nasset Research and Development Organization. I equally want to thank you, Ismail Kalanda, from the Ministry of Labor, Gender and Social Development, who happens to be a labor officer, principal labor officer there in charge of inspection. Thank you so much, our viewers, for being with us from the hour of 6:30 till now, and of course I know you're continuing with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, and please tomorrow make it a date with us. From 6:30 we'll be here. I can't forget to thank my cameraman and of course the technical team up there. You're doing a great job. See you tomorrow. God willing, have a lovely day.